So how the liquidity pool works in the decentralized exchange works is often a really big challenge for many founders to kind of understand. I'm going to walk you through really quickly how it works. So if you look over here at virtual, you'll notice here that it says virtual/wrapped ETH. So what actually is happening here is on this decentralized exchange Aerodome, we're able to now trade our virtuals tokens with our wrapped Ethereum, right? If we want to buy, we put our wrapped ETH in. If we want to sell, we put our virtual in and take our ETH out. And so if I went ahead and looked at the liquidity pool, we can see here in this example, we have about $9.8 million of wrapped ETH inside of the pool. We also have about $9.8 million of the token. So these two things are sitting inside of this liquidity pool on Aerodome. And when people are buying and selling, this is what's controlling the price, right? And it's all of this is going to be controlled by a math formula, all right? And so the reason why this is so important is this is essentially the value that's backing this entire token, right? And so if you would imagine this, and we looked at our token here, and we looked at our $20 million valuation, and we said, when our token is live, how much value do we need for our pool? And we didn't know that. Well, that would become a question mark for our budget, right? If you didn't know how much money you had to pair with your token when you're live, or to make it live, you don't know the answer to that, then you have a massive hole in your budget. Okay, now let's look at this right here and resolve that. So first of all, you can see it says raise $2 million, and our market cap is 20 million. So if we raise all this money, and we say we're going to take 70% of that and put that inside of our liquidity pool, that would mean our liquidity pool would have $1.4 million inside of it when it was live, and our fully diluted valuation would be $20 million. Now, what I'll also say is this is too much money. And the reason why is, let's say someone bought $10,000. And if they put in $10,000, now that would increase the price a little bit, but not really that much, because we have 1.4 million here, and that's only a small fraction of it. In addition to this, if this didn't have a whole lot of value, so let's say it had only like 1% in here, let's say we really made it low, right? It only had 20 grand inside of that pool. Well, if someone put in 10,000, that's a lot of this pool, and that would shift the price up. And this is how volatility happens in this decentralized exchange, and why you want to make sure you have the adequate amount of liquidity, right? If you have too much, then it's hard to move your price. If you have too little, it's easy to move the price, then you have too much volatility, right? And as I noted before, if it's easy to shift the price up and to make these things worth more value, that could be even more selling pressure, right? And so you don't want to do that. You want to have reasonable amounts of volatility. So how do we set all this up? Well, what we're able to do now is look at our liquidity. For me, as an example, this is something that you really want to design carefully. I'm just going to use for the sake of this. I'm going to put this at 30%. So what I'm saying now is when I make my pool live for the first time, I'm going to have $600,000. I'm going to put that inside of my liquidity pool. I'm going to pair that with my token, and I'm going to do that at a $20 million valuation. Okay, now, so if someone were to throw in $10,000, now think of what percent that might be of this. It's going to enable that price to rise. Okay, and the last thing I'll also tell you when it comes to liquidity pools, and we'll cover that in more detail in the advanced section, is this is where slippage comes into play. Like as an example, there was one client I had where they only had $25,000 inside of their liquidity pool, and their token was like a $25 million valuation. So someone couldn't even put $10,000 in to buy a $25 million token. No good. That causes too much slippage. That causes that price to jump up too fast and too high. And that actually would cause all kinds of warnings on Uniswap and these decentralized exchanges. So just note that liquidity is a really important piece of your token. You have to budget for that, creating that pool. Keep this in mind, but also understand that in our advanced section, we'll actually cover this in more depth and more detail.